What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you my very first video in what will be a series for the Pillars of Eternity / Avowed universe known as Eora. I really want to dive into the lore of this game and make a series of videos explaining just all the various lore concepts that I want to talk about. And I figured the most natural place to start that series would be right at the very foundations of said universe, which is a process called the Wheel. Now, before we jump into that too much, I want to say that this video, and probably this entire series, is going to have a ton of spoilers for both of the Pillars games, so just bear that in mind. Tons of spoilers coming, but with that warning out of the way, let's get into it. What is the Wheel? The Wheel is the cycle of life and death in this universe. This is a natural metaphysical process that just happens. When people die, their souls shift to the in-between. This is a sort of shadow realm where you would find ghosts or lost souls. And then, from there, those souls travel to Adra pillars. Now, we'll cover probably what those are in a more substantial video specifically for them. But Adra pillars are the conduit from the in-between in our world to what is known as the Beyond. The Beyond is the realm of the gods. It's like a proper afterlife, if you will. That said, souls don't get to stay there because they are reincarnated. This process can take several years. It can happen instantaneously. It just kind of depends on what's going on. Now, this process, known as the Wheel, is the way things always were until a civilization started practicing what's known as animancy, which is the manipulation of soul energy. Now, they went on to make drastic changes to that. But before we get into that, I want to talk about the concept of entropy in this universe. As souls are recycled through this process and they die and are reincarnated, bits of their soul can break off. This is known as entropy. Entropy is considered one of several soul maladies. That is to say, illnesses of the soul that are caused by various problems that can occur while one is traversing the Wheel. Now, the most common soul malady, and the one that is kind of the main plot, so to speak, of Pillars of Eternity 1, is being born what's known as hollowborn, which is to say that you are born without a soul. These people are like zombies. It's very much so a lights are on but nobody's home situation. And it's important to understand that the entire reason the civilization known as the Inguintans came along and decided to do something about this was in large part because of these soul maladies. Basically, the process of the Wheel was just aimless with no direction. It was just doing this. There wasn't much rhyme or reason, and these maladies would pop up all the time afflicting people. So the Inguintans, around the time of 600 AI, managed to change that drastically. Now, when I say 600 AI, keep in mind that the date in Pillars of Eternity 2 is 2828 AI. So, about 2800 years after history began being recorded, of course. So there are tens of thousands of years before year zero. And for this particular video, those dates aren't incredibly important. I'm just trying to give a frame of reference for the most part here. So keep in mind that the Inguintans did this around 600 AI, and Pillars of Eternity 2 takes place in 2828 AI. So what did the Inguintans do? Well, essentially, they used their mastery of animancy, which again is the study of souls and their energy and everything, to essentially tame the Wheel. The metaphor that is often used for this is making a dam in a river. They are able to control and direct the flow of souls through the Wheel with these machines. Now, the specifics, of course, are obviously kept vague because it's a fantasy game. Suffice to say that these Inguintans managed to build these machines, which then take control of the process of the Wheel. And in addition to doing that, the Inguintans were able to use this as a sort of apotheosis, converting the vast majority of their civilization into the new pantheon, or the gods. Now, the gods I will probably try to cover individually in videos farther out, but essentially the gods became the caretakers of this new improved process. Each one of them controlled some aspect of it. Now, the fundamental thing that this new process allowed the gods to take care of was that because of this machinery and this new process, far, far less people were born with these soul maladies. But that said, the gods do, of course, get something out of this, and that is that they feed off of the broken bits of soul caused by entropy that happen as the wheel spins on. And that is what sustains the gods. It's their version of food, basically. Without that energy, they would die. They need it the same way mortals need to eat. Now, this went on for about 2,200 years, until the events of Pillars of Eternity 2. Because at the very end of that game, the machinery of the wheel is destroyed. And this is where it's important to understand that the process of the wheel had been taken control of for so long by that machinery that destroying that machinery effectively breaks the wheel. Again, using the oft-used dam metaphor for this, if you dam a river for like 2,000 years, you are altering its natural flow. And then if that dam were removed, the water would not just return to flowing as normal, it would have an entirely new path it carved out because of the dam. It would fundamentally alter the nature of it. And that's essentially what happens here when the machinery gets destroyed. It breaks the wheel to where souls get stuck in the in-between and can't pass on to the beyond, which means they can't give their broken off soul essence to the gods, which means the gods will die. Mortals aren't being reincarnated, so they have maybe a generation or two before everyone's dead. That's the ending of Pillars of Eternity 2. The whole point of that ending being that like mortals need to figure this out and they need to do it for themselves. That was kind of the justification for that ending, but we're not going to talk about that too much. So that is basically where we're at with the wheel. To quickly sum it up without all the extra talk, it is a natural metaphysical process that was taken control of by an ancient civilization that fundamentally altered the way the wheel worked. That same machinery managed to turn the people who made it into gods that then took control of that process, which vastly improved the efficiency, shall we say, of the wheel, until of course it was broken, and now the entire world has to find a new way forward. Now I do want to mention before I wrap this video up, because nobody ever seems to talk about this is incredibly similar to some of Divinity's plot points, whereas like in that universe, mortals are gaining source, which is like life energy, as they live their life and then they die, and the gods feed on that source. So it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar, and I always thought that was funny because I loved both of these worlds. With that, I'm going to leave you guys. There is the first of this lore series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I really want this series to do well. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.